How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now, I hope you guys are refreshed and ready to go from this little bit of an extended break that we have had over this double game week 19. Hopefully the double game week was up to your guys' standards and you guys all broke that 100 club mark. In this video though, we're going to be talking about the game week 20 preview. We're going to be going over the main talking point, which is Kevin De Bruyne replacements. After news broke yesterday that he should be out up until that Liverpool game, which is going to be about 4 game weeks time. So we're going to be looking at replacements for him. We're then going to do some comparisons over selected players from selected teams with a price difference of quite a large margin and also some price differences that are quite close together. And we're going to be comparing these selections and finally going over who I think is the best KDB replacement within your price bracket. Finally, we're going to be going over the captaincy with a couple of good options going into game week 20. So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So before we get into the talking points, I wanted to give you guys a reminder of the FA Cup fixtures. I think it's going to be the round 4 fixtures that are happening this weekend. Now, while the FA Cup doesn't mean much for FPL, the implications do mean a lot in terms of those blanks and those doubles coming up. So each round of the FA Cup that progresses, the better idea we get of who's going to be blanking and who's going to be having a double game week. I think that blank game week is going to be about that game week 29 mark, and the double game week is going to be around that game week 26 mark. But also, obviously with the fixtures also comes the playing time. So monitor the players that you do own. I think a player that I'm going to be monitoring is going to be Bruno Fernandes. They do face Liverpool, so pretty high intensity clash there. If he is rested, it basically locks in the captaincy for me because he'll be ready rested for Sheffield United, and I think that he'll do well then. But if he does play a full 90, it's going to have to come into my considerations because there might be a little bit of rotation there. So just monitor your players, use whatever football app you use. I personally use OneFootball, but you don't have to exactly watch the fixtures, but just go on your footballing app, take a look at what happened, the stats, the injuries, the substitutions, and the playing time and all that. But then also in the back of your mind, keep an eye on those fixtures because it does give you a little bit more clarity and gives you a little bit more open planning going into those next couple game weeks. So going on to the watch list, which has been updated. If you remember in the double game week 19 kind of watch list, we had a triple Man City watch list, but this week only one player from Man City. It's going to be John Stones. Now John Stones managed to score both of his goals this season in double game week 19, so all eyes are on the English defender. At 5.1 million, provides a nice cheap alternative into that Man City lineup, going into that strong defense that they're going to be having. So with John Stones, he has been nailed for the past couple game weeks, but I do think with Laporte coming back from injury, Nathan Ake should be closely returning from injury. I think that there could be some rotation there, but with the way Man City are defending currently, I don't think Pep Guardiola is going to do anything drastic. I think Man City are currently the favourites for the Premier League title going into the last couple game weeks or the last half of the season, so I don't think any drastic changes are going to come about that John Stones, Ruben Diaz kind of combination because they've just been so solid at the back. So I do think that John Stones is still a good option to go for. I personally went for Ruben Diaz and João Cancelo because I think for the future game weeks, maybe a little bit more nailed, but I think with the form that John Stones is in, he's basically undroppable. So he comes in here, and with Kevin De Bruyne being out injured, provides a nice little alternative to that triple up in the Man City defense. I mean, that could be absolutely sensational with the way that they are defending currently, but that's why he's on the watch list, because I don't know if I'm going to be tripling up or going for another Man City attacker going into game week 20 with that free transfer. Then next up is Antonio, another player that all eyes are on because of that lovely 2 goals and maximum bonus points in both fixtures in the double game week 19. The thing about Antonio is a fit Antonio is guaranteed to score points. It's basically a certainty. He's just such a good poacher and finisher. He's not going to score amazing goals, but that doesn't really matter in FPL as long as he's getting them, and that's why Antonio's on the watch list currently. And with West Ham, they do have some nice fixtures coming up, so that's why I am on the watch list currently. But I'm not going to put him in the side right away. I just want to see maybe from a fitness point of view that he can carry on. I think that might be a little bit ignorant considering that he's just come out of a double game week playing a lot of minutes and he still managed to score 2 goals. But I think I'm just holding off on it currently with the whole Kevin De Bruyne situation. Then finally, we've got Jamie Vardy, and the reason why Jamie Vardy's on here, we'll talk about Leicester a little bit later on, but they have great fixtures coming up. I think Leeds and Fulham in the next 3. So Jamie Vardy comes in here as a nice captaincy option if I do want to bring him in. And if you are downgrading Kevin De Bruyne, it does give you a fair bit of budget to upgrade other departments, and that's why the Leicester striker is on my watch list. So now going on to the main talking point of this video and why you're all probably here is Kevin De Bruyne replacement. So what I've done is I've highlighted 4 players here. We will be comparing players. We'll be going over Harvey Barnes versus Maddison and then also Gundogan versus Sterling to provide a bit more of an analysis on the stats behind these couple players. But I've gone for 4 options here. There obviously are many options. The nice thing about Kevin De Bruyne is you can basically afford anyone in the game except for maybe Sadio Mane and Salah. But the thing with Kevin De Bruyne as well, there are obviously some more safe, some more certain options. Like if you don't own Bruno Fernandes, I would look at getting him in. I don't think any one of you watching probably doesn't have Bruno Fernandes, but if you don't, he would be the 100% the main replacement that I would go for. But I currently do own Bruno Fernandes and I own Mo Salah, so I'm looking at another alternative, maybe a cheaper option, maybe to upgrade the forward department, bring in someone like Jamie Vardy, we've already spoken about, maybe Harry Kane. So who can we be looking at? So the first one is just a straight swap. It's going to be Raheem Sterling. So Raheem Sterling should play basically every game with Kevin De Bruyne out. There might still be some rotation risk, but that is the fact with any Man City player. But Raheem Sterling, I really like him as an alternative, relatively low owned there, mega differential kind of, and with those lovely fixtures coming up, West Bromwich Albion, Sheffield United and Burnley, those look to be great options for Man City. I think the Burnley game, if you do remember the previous game week, I think it ended 5-0 to Man City, so I think there could be a lot of goals in that one. Then they face Liverpool and Spurs, and I think those games are particularly bad for Man City with the form that they're currently on. So with the previous game weeks, we saw Man City kind of recover from this little bit of a goal drought that they're on. I mean, the Aston Villa game was a tough one, but I think that would have been a tough one for most opposition, and that's why I really like Raheem Sterling, as it's kind of a straight swap there, still provides a good captaincy option from the Man City attack, whereas you might not want to captain Gundogan because he might be a little bit under the radar. Raheem Sterling you could always go for, and I think that he's going to be doing well over these next 3. Then we'll go on to Gundogan, as it's the same opposition, so we're going over a more in-depth analysis of these 2 Man City players, but Gundogan is on the form of his life. He's just goal scoring for days right now, and I think that form is going to continue with these lovely fixtures. So if you want a nice cheap alternative and you want to upgrade another department, I definitely think Gundogan should be on your radar. Then we're going to go on to the more assured option, I think, is Heung-min Son. With Liverpool up next, I don't think that's a particularly bad fixture for Spurs. We saw in the reverse fixture earlier that Spurs really were good on the counter-attack, and with Liverpool's vulnerabilities in defense right now, I think that Spurs should do well in this one. Remember, it is a home fixture for Spurs, not at Anfield anymore, so I'm expecting Son to do well. So if you want to bring him in, he has a little bit of hit or miss fixtures there, basically a bad fixture than a good one, but with Liverpool and Chelsea playing so badly right now, those fixtures might not even be considered that bad. So Brighton and West Brom in between there could be a nice captaincy option if you want to go for them, but I definitely think that Heung-min Son should be who you're looking at if you are looking at a Spurs option. And finally, we're going to go on to Maddison. I won't be discussing who I would prefer between Maddison and Harvey Barnes. I'll just be going over Leicester as a whole. Their nice fixtures come up, not this game week, but next game week. Now, Everton could be a little bit hit or miss. Everton are defensively strong some game weeks, defensively bad in others, but after beating Chelsea, I think that Leicester should be full of confidence and they should be going into this one looking for a win. So that's why I like a Leicester option if you want to go for an attacker. And then they face Leeds and Fulham. Now, Leeds, worst defense in the Premier League at the moment, so I think you definitely have to target the Leeds opponents, and that's why I'm looking at maybe a Jamie Vardy as a captaincy option going to game week 21. So these are the 4 options I would be looking at. I'll be going over more of a comparison now to just look at the stats behind these players and who you should be looking at finally. So first up, we're going to be looking at the Man City options, Gundogan versus Sterling. So I want you guys to pause the video right now, or I will give you a couple of seconds, but I want you to look at this graph and tell me which player you think is which color. Now, if you are a regular of these previews, you will know which player is which, because on the left, I always select them for the certain color, and then on the right, I do the other color. But if you haven't guessed it right now, the blue color represents Gundogan. So I know what you're thinking, that is absolutely crazy. Looking at a player that is basically less than half the price of Raheem Sterling, and he's providing better stats. But I told you, Gundogan is in the form of his life right now, and that XG, big chances, shots in the box, shots on target are all in the favor of Gundogan. So it's quite surprising there. I think this might be an opportunity for those of you who look at the stats. This is an absolute golden basket. You want to definitely bring in Gundogan, as he just provides such good value right now. And I think if you still want a Man City attacker, he could be an option. The thing with Raheem Sterling is I just think he's a lot more explosive. So if you are looking at captaincy options, I think Raheem Sterling might be a better one, because he goes on this little bit of 2-pointers, but then he absolutely smashes it in one game and gets a hat-trick. So that's why Raheem Sterling should still be on your radar. But I think with the stats that Gundogan is providing right now, it's a little bit hard to overlook him at the price he is. And the thing with Kevin De Bruyne out, I think that Gundogan is still going to be continuing to play, as he's one of the most informed players for that Man City midfield. And with Kevin De Bruyne out, I think they definitely have to look at their players that are performing well to still get those good results. Next, we're going to be going on to Barnes versus Maddison, which is maybe more of a low-key debate. The stats are generally a little bit similar here. We're continuing the same trend. The player on the left is in blue, so Harvey Barnes in blue, still providing more stats on the shots, big chances, XG than James Maddison is, which might be a little bit surprising as I thought that Maddison right now has the better form. If you look at the past 3 game weeks, I think that Maddison has scored more points and looks to be more of an assured option. The thing that I was always a little bit worried about with Harvey Barnes was the rotation risk, but it seems like he's locked down that spot permanently and he should be starting with the form he's in. So both these two players are performing quite well. Leicester overall also performing well, but I think I would slightly lean towards Harvey Barnes, not only from a stats point of view, but I just think the more advanced position that he plays in that Leicester lineup is going to provide a couple more points over these next favorable fixtures. And now going on to the talking point of should we sell Salah. So I just wanted to touch on this point because I think I wanted to give you guys some information about it. I think a couple of you might be rage transferring Salah out, maybe after a failed triple captain, but the thing with Salah is that right now with Kevin De Bruyne out, I don't think I'd be looking at selling Salah. So with Kevin De Bruyne out, you can simply downgrade him. You shouldn't be having budget worries there. There's not that many premium options right now that are performing as well as they should. So maybe if you want to downgrade Salah to Son so that you can afford Kane, maybe I can understand that move. But I still think that I would keep Salah. I don't think the stats are necessarily that bad. He was benched against Burnley, so maybe we can't look at that fixture as an entirety and really judge him on that bad result. So with Salah, with Kevin De Bruyne out right now, I don't think there's any excuse for you not to own someone like Bruno Fernandes, maybe a Heung-min Son or a Harry Kane. So that's why Salah will still remain on my side, and I don't think we should be looking at taking him out just yet. And then the final talking point of the video is going to be the captaincy. So a couple of nice options going into Game Week 20, so hopefully there is a little bit more variance. I think the safe option to look at right now is going to be Bruno Fernandes. I spoke about hopefully he does get some managed minutes against Liverpool in the FA Cup, as that will really make me confident captaining him, as I think he started a lot of games recently, so he might be a little bit tired. And I think against Sheffield United, against the low block, I think that Bruno Fernandes could do well in that fixture, and that's why I think he's the safe option to go for. But I think the more explosive options are definitely going to be the Man City assets. So there's been talk about even captaining a defender, maybe a Ruben Diaz or a Cancelo. I mean, Cancelo has been one of the most irritating players to own right now, not because he's been returning points, but because of the potential. He should have basically had an attacking return in the last couple game weeks that he's played, so that has been really annoying. But the nice thing about that is that there could be a game week on the rise and that he absolutely bangs, and if you do captain him, that could be absolutely explosive. But I think from a Man City attacker point of view, you could go for Sterling. You could also go for Gundogan if you are confident, but I think I would be a little bit more confident in captaining Sterling because I think that he is guaranteed to start, and I think he plays a far more advanced position than Gundogan does. And then finally, it's going to be Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. So the Liverpool fixture, I don't think it's that hard of a fixture. In the reverse game week, they did do well in this one from the counter-attack. So I think I would personally favor Heung-min Son a little bit more than Harry Kane, but because Harry Kane is on penalties, he always is going to be a captain option. So I think both those two options could be captain options, but I think with the Man City assets and the United assets, I think that they might be a little bit under the radar. So if you want to go for a more differential option, you could look at a Spurs option. So this is basically a wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new or have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys with more videos coming up over the weekend, and hopefully you do enjoy that FA Cup football. I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.